as well. I can tell you right now, and I've mentioned this before, Barry Bonds is hated by the media, and that's part of the problem. He's out of the Hall of Fame.
Same with Lou Whitaker, right?
Well, yeah, but that's a different comparison. Okay, because Lou Whitaker
never took steroids,
right? Yeah. So to me, that's relevant but irrelevant. Okay, but Barry Bonds, even Alex Rodriguez probably won't get in, but at least he's nice enough to media where at least he'll give him a little bit of a look. But I don't see him getting in and sitting out an entire year because of it. Certainly doesn't help either. But my point is about Barry Bonds. And, like I said before, and this is your first rodeo, listen to, okay, Jason, if he was a decent person, he's admitted, okay, had he have gotten along with the media, he'd have a puncher's chance and he wouldn't be on the threshold of getting in, albeit 15% apart. Now, to your credit, okay, the one stat that's being overlooked over the last 2 days is this. How many intentional walks did Bonds have? Hold on, before you say anything, okay, forget about his hits and home runs. You can't hold steroids against a man getting intentionally walked because that means they didn't want to pitch to this guy.
Yeah. I mean, 110 in 2004 alone intentional walks.
Right. So, therefore, you can't judge the juice, okay, with the idiot, okay, that has intentional walks up to Wang Wang.
I'm glad you made mention of that because his on-base percentage definitely skyrocketed because of it. I mean...
Well, that's fine. Yeah. Nobody wants to pitch you. What do you expect it to do?
I mean, look what he did in the 2002 World Series. He hit like 5 home runs, and he was walked like 13 times. He was walked with the bases loaded in a playoff game.
Well,
I mean, he's the most feared hitter in baseball history, regardless of whether he's taken PEDs or not. Again, it's that dilemma I presented.
Right. I don't even know, and I don't even know how many times that the guy's been hit by a pitch, although I'm sure a lot of people would love to hit him anyways.
Not as much as you'd think. Craig Biggio holds that record,
does he?
Not as much as you'd think.
Yeah, well, I'm just telling you.
I know.
Although we can say, and we can candidly joke around about it, as Jeff Kent didn't hit him by a pitch, he just hit him in the dugout.
Yeah,
but that'll be for another conversation. So.
Right, I saw Joe Carter.
But, I mean, when you look at it, me personally, I hope that if I had to choose between the two to get in, I'd rather see Clemens over Bonds. But then again, Lewis knows how I feel about Barry, fraud, Bonds, and whether I know that Hank Aaron is a real home run king.
Although Aaron has admitted to using amphetamines, but again,
big deal.
Mickey Mantle used them too.
Oh, but nobody cares about those guys using amphetamines compared to this arrogant juice that nobody wanted to employ when he went ahead and broke that record, that everybody wanted to run out of the darn game. All right, now that I've been a little bit loud, Jason, yes, you have another few minutes to go. You're the one on the other end of this phone. Give me your overall opinion about this whole insane, ridiculous, moron addict clown named Barry Bonds and his juice sidekick, Roger Clemens, who I thought if he ever belonged in the Hall of Fame, he should have worn a Boston cap instead, because that's where I knew him back then. Yeah. Go on, Jason.
Oh, that's great. When Barry Bonds came in with the Pirates, he was with Jim Whelan, and they had good teams. Like, he built that team over there, and it's all about kind of like the players behind you, what they do. And then when he was on San Francisco, he had hitting. He had a veteran like Moises Alou hitting behind him, and guys like
Matt Williams
at the time. But he had some hitting, so people could get on base. So his RBIs generally were going to be higher. But at the same time, you get the feeling that he didn't need to do that. And same with guys like A-Rod and things of that nature. Their numbers speak for themselves. Even pre-steroid era, he was still hitting 25-plus home runs a year.
Even 40. Yeah.
Hard to say that he wouldn't have been a Hall of Famer. Hard to say that he can be now.
Jason, you like war, so I'll give you this. Barry Bonds' first 13 seasons, 86 to 98, his career WAR is 99.9. That's higher than Ken. These are clean years. That's higher than Ken Griffey Jr.'s entire career, 83.8. So you're telling me, I mean, and you want to get even more into it. Yeah, Bond. No one even talked about how great a defender Bonds was in the day. He won 8 Gold Gloves. Like, he was one of the best defensive left fielders in baseball history. In my opinion, he's the greatest left fielder in baseball history because I know what he did without steroids.
Yeah, and it's so easy to peg him now because it's like, look, he dude at 73. Come on, it's unheard of more than and I think that number's probably really talked about more than anything else when you didn't really even need to do that. And but like you said, I get the war thing. Griffey, he's what, number 2 all time behind Bonds. Bonds got to be. I mean, that's the highest number I think I've ever heard of.
Well, I know Bonds, his offensive WAR is actually second all time to Babe Ruth. But I wanted to ask you one more question as we have about a minute or two left. Alex Rodriguez comes on the ballot in 2022. With the way that I see that Curt Schilling trended where he went from 60 to 70%, and I know Bonds and Clemens are a little bit different because they, sacrificed baseball's integrity with what they supposedly did. And although they never took a substance that was banned by the MLB, I'll say that again, I understand the media. What is your opinion on Alex Rodriguez, who comes on the ballot in 2022? Because he admitted to taking steroids in high school. He was suspended in 2003, 2008, and Balco cost him a year in 2013 and 14. So, I mean, where do you see A-Rod trending? He's done a lot to build the public reputation. I think he's actually really good on TV. But give me your take real quick in about a minute or so what you think of his Hall of Fame candidacy.
Something, I don't think he would be any different than anybody else who has been accused of these. If you tie this into Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, you tie this into a Mark McGwire, a Sammy Sosa issue, too, you can't go one way and then don't vote those guys in, for another way. Either A, they probably do eventually all get in, or B, you can't vote really any of them in.
That's true.
I don't know if there's such a gray area there because then it really looks at baseball as like, hey, we're just going to vote who we want to come in, instead of being fair about it. So, if you're going to keep them out, then you need to probably just keep them all out.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll put a bow on what you said. That's a great question. But what Bob Costas has gone on record saying that it's okay to bring the guys in since it's a museum, but put them under steroid area and leave them there for that reason, but really not, embrace their candidacy. Because after all, if you've ever been to Cooperstown, and I've been there a couple of times, it is a shrine where you're talking about baseball history. Mm-hmm. So that's how they get in, but not because they belong as great players. Now, I think the only thing I'll say about Rodriguez is the fact that he's become a nice guy, a good announcer, somewhat of an ambassador. So unlike Barry Bonds, at least Alex Rodriguez might get, a higher percentage of the vote if for no other reason he's a nicer guy. Mm-hmm. But that's where it goes.
And I just wanted to add real quick, and I wasn't trying to really pick necessarily on A-Rod either, because almost like Barry Bonds, those guys grew up. He did admit to high school, but if you take a look at both of their, how they are athletically, they could have been Hall of Famers first ballot anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Oh, that's a good point, Jason.
Both ways on this. That's why I love talking about this with you guys. Because we have so much good chemistry on that, because we understand kind of what this is about. And that's why I love doing this with you guys. I appreciate you all.
No problem. It's a pleasure.
I mean, A-Rod 117 career WARs, so I mean, he's top 10 all time among, position players. I mean, he's going to have an interesting case. I think he's got a couple of years to further the narrative. He's good on TV. He did try to sue the Yankees, though. Some voters in the New York media may use that against him. I don't know. Obviously, he works with them now in the front office, so that relationship has been repaired a bit. He did help them win a World Series. So, again...
Yeah, but you're talking 2 years out, so a lot of good things can happen.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, right. So I'm with you there. I agree with you 100%. So that, he could smooth that situation out a little. But we'll see how it plays out. Go ahead, Jason. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, absolutely. I agree with you what you're saying. We still got 2 years out, and that's what gives us something to talk about. And I mean, it's an exciting time, and I love this whole Hall of Fame thing. From from even last year, guys like Lee Smith, Messina, Edgar Martinez, I grew up watching those guys. Like, it's so fun to see these guys finally get inducted, and you're like, oh man, you kind of feel old, but it's fun. It was fun to watch those guys, and as you grew up with, they were like complementary hitters, so to speak, because they were with Griffey and that. And so, like you see guys like Todd Helton will probably make it, and Larry Walker, and it's good for the sport, and it's good for the game.
Okay, with that said, Jason, you got 30 seconds to spit it out. I want you to let everybody know how you can be contacted on Twitter. You have two ways to do it. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can follow me at Proc Sports. It's PRACHSPORTS. That's Jason Proc. And you can follow me on Twitter as well. And you can also follow us on Facebook at Chat Sports as well on Twitter and Facebook. So, yeah, I always agree with what you guys are saying. And I appreciate you having me on. I always love coming on and talking with you guys about this stuff.
All right, well, it doesn't hurt that Jason Proc is a hometown guy from Detroit either, so I have a little home cooking on the show tonight. Jason, thanks for being on. We welcome, once again, folks, Jason Proc, writes for the South Florida Tribune. To read Jason's work, go to www.southfloridatribune.com. Jason, thanks for being on the program, and we look forward to having you back. Nice job, Jason. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk to you real soon.
You bet.
All right,
Good
take
night.
care. Way to go, Jason.
Okay, I want to go over a couple headlines, while we have an opportunity.
Sure.
Okay, first of all, the New York Mets are finalizing a deal with new manager Luis Rojas. That was something you called, so I'll give you your prompts on that one.
Yeah.
And another thing that I want to address, we kind of talked about it a little bit before, and now I'll reinforce what you talked about. Major League Baseball does not plan to strip the Astros or the Red Sox of their World Series titles. I'm glad that Rob Manfred realizes that the events did indeed happen, unlike the ludicrous NCAA, which doesn't care if you take a title away but collect all the cash. So just a couple headlines worth noting. The Mets are finalizing a deal with new manager Luis Rojas, so a little bit of familiarity internally with that organization. And the Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred said he doesn't plan to strip the Astros or Red Sox of the World Series titles before. And what are your thoughts about that?
I like the Rojas move because he has experience in the minor leagues coaching. He's a young guy, and you know what? You'll like this. He comes from good blood. You know who his father is? Felipe Alou.
Right. No,
and brother of Moises. So he's got, he's got good blood in that in that family as far as baseball personality goes. He's learned a lot. Obviously, he knows being around those guys. The Alous, a great baseball family. Felipe and his brother Matty, and then Moises playing. So I love the hire. I love the fact that they stayed in-house and didn't bring in an outside guy. I think he'll gel well. Marcus Stroman, one of the Mets pitchers in that rotation, raved about the move, so I'm glad about that. And yeah, look, Manfred, I don't like what he said about not going to punish the players because they're going to announce a public apology in spring training. Foolish. They need to be punished for that, for what they did. But again, love both things, and I couldn't be happier for the Mets.
And one other note I want to bring up while I have a moment, okay? The Raiders officially became the Las Vegas Raiders. The NFL draft will be coming up in Sin City in April. So no more Oakland Raiders, no more LA Raiders. It is the Las Vegas Raiders. And it'll be interesting to see how that situation plays out. Don't have time to get into it. But those are three of the main headlines that I wanted to bring up while the situation presented itself. So, I think what was neat about Jason Proc, being on here was watching the camaraderie that the two of you guys developed based on the numbers aspect of things. And that to me is good. I mean, he's a very intelligent person. I've known him a long, long time. And, the thing that is necessary that I've emphasized a lot is if you're going to talk it, you better know it. And I think what surprised me about Proc more so is I was really surprised at how much more he knew about analytics than some of his regular straightforward commentary. So that's really refreshing. And let's not kid ourselves, folks, I've been in the media for 41 years, and I'll be the first to admit that I love having a lot of facts to back up opinions. So I'm definitely on the numbers thing as well. I just probably don't take it to the level that the younger generation does. That doesn't mean I have a problem with it, though. I'm just saying it's a different era based on what we try to do, and that's how I interpret it. Doesn't mean it's bad. I'm just saying.
It's a different school of thought. All I'll say on the Raiders is long gone are the days of John Madden and Jim Plunkett. But, I'm glad that, we're in. I think nowadays you'll see with the younger generation, we love to contest